Where do you stand physically right now? I mean, I know that, you've cut weight your whole life, but I know it's not a fun one for you. Where do you stand right now?
It's never a fun one, but I feel amazing actually right now. I got to get it's uncharacteristic. Usually that last day of weight cut, I usually wait till the last night and just get it off. I don't do anything all day, but this morning I had the urge. I got up, had breakfast, went to the PI, got in a good hard workout. Feel amazing, got something to eat, so feeling good.
Fights keep getting bigger and bigger for you every time out. I mean, is it a different feel, a different anticipation, anything like that than what you felt before?
No, not really. I've just been, I like to consider it, I tell myself I've been classically trained because I was fortunate enough to be able to shadow one of the future Hall of Famer in Sugar Rashad Evans, to watch, I do everything with him. Go through the whole camp with him, travel with him, do the media rounds, do everything with him. So I've been able to see it firsthand. So when I got put in the mix, it was, it's second nature.
And last thing for me, it's a smaller cage here at the Palms. I'm just curious if that factored into your preparation at all, or do you feel it benefits you at all, with maybe him having a little bit less space to work in?
We all know who it benefits. I mean, I'm not one of those guys who likes to dance around too much and play around. I'm gonna be in your face. I'm punching you. I don't like to waste punches or waste kicks, but it doesn't really matter. Big cage, small cage. I'm gonna corner anybody, and I'm gonna, get my hands on them.
I remember your last fight kind of felt like a big one, right? It felt like you got a guy with a big name, main event. Do you feel like you got a big reward out of that fight? Like everything you wanted, the reaction to it afterwards?
No, I mean at this, I've just kind of put my mind in a position to where ultimately what's going to be big for me is winning that UFC title. That's what I consider big. When I was there in Chile, fight night, and going through all the media rounds, being the main event, yeah, I mean I had a little second to think, wow, okay, now I'm headlining the whole event. So it felt special, but I didn't dwell too much on it. After the victory, not as much, because I mean obviously it's all about the media and the fans and the way they receive it, and they didn't receive it as well. So it is what it is. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, my job is to go in and win in impressive fashion, and that's what I aim to do Friday night.
I mean, what is that like as an athlete, though? I mean, you go in, you work hard. Obviously, you put a lot of your sacrifices, your life into it. You win a fight, and then it's not received.
Yeah,
positively.
I mean, yeah, it's a bit disheartening, but that's part of being an athlete. Part of being a professional athlete is learning how to deal with things like that, because fans are very fickle. Fans are very fickle. Our definition of fans is, I want to give you a definition, but it's fake ass, So fans are fickle. It's basically, they love you when they want to love you, they hate you when they want to hate you. It doesn't matter. You can be winning, but at some point they're going to get tired of you winning. So they're going to be, oh man, I wish someone would beat him, Or you could be losing and then they start cheering for you, getting behind you, rooting for you. So it really doesn't matter. My job is to go out there and win and reap the fruits of my labor.
And one thing I've seen you say is that you dominate guys so much that maybe it is not as entertaining to people, and that may also get people to think like, oh, this is easy. You won 12 fights in a row. How difficult has that been to win 12 fights in a row?
It's been extremely difficult because I do remember that defeat, that lone defeat. It's because I came into the sport with such a high level of what I was already doing in wrestling, to where when I got a hold of a guy, I at that point I was so good at just manipulation of someone's body. When I got a hold of him, it was just kind of playing around with them. I could throw him down, ragdoll him whenever I wanted. So I was like, this is gonna be easy. So at that moment, it kind of hinders you a little bit because the striking doesn't come as fast because you don't feel like you need it. I mean, I can just ragdoll everybody. The jiu-jitsu didn't come as fast because I felt like, oh, just take anyone down and wrestle them. And then I was taught a very difficult lesson. Then I got submitted. Then it's like, oh shit, it's time to work on this. So I just went to the drawing board. I put the gi on. I said, you know what? I don't like that feeling. Because I remember like it was yesterday, after I took that loss, I went back home and I was living with Rashad Evans at the time. I was in my room for a week. I didn't want to come out of my room. Just it's just a disappointment of knowing that I've put so much into my trainings that I do every day, wrestling for years and years, and then to come out and be defeated and choked out by a guy that I knew I was much better than. It was very disheartening, and I vowed to never feel that again. So I took it serious, and I've hit the ground running since.
RDA said he doesn't really remember your training that much. He said he was just working on some stuff. It was probably a special moment for you. It didn't register to him. You believe him?
I mean, it doesn't matter. To be honest, I really didn't remember it that much because I wasn't that into UFC. I wasn't that into MMA. I was just a wholehearted wrestler, wrestling at the Olympic Training Center, and got the opportunity after we wrapped Tough 14 to just go to California, just to spend the weekend in California. And lo and behold, I think like a Saturday, I'm in the gym, I'm strapping up gloves, and they're like, all right, put your shin guards on, we're gonna spar. And these guys are coming in, and I didn't really, to be honest, I didn't know who he was. I didn't know him at the time. And after, the only guy that I really knew in there was Jason Miller, Jake Ellenberger, and Mark Munoz. And after we got done with after we were done training, which I did very well, and I was asking questions. Oh, who's that? Who's that guy? They're like, oh, yeah, he's in the UFC. I'm like, oh, he's in the UFC. I'm like, yeah. So I walk away like, he's in the UFC. Maybe I can do this. So, no, I mean, it wasn't like, oh man, I remember every detail of training. I just remember that, if he was paying attention, he would know that that's a bad motherfucker when he gets in the sport. So, if he didn't remember it, that's on him. But it's all Friday night.
You said that you're probably the hungrier of the two, right? That he's kind of been there. Now he's coming off of a tough loss in a big spot against Colby. I wondered, like, in your athletic career, have you ever been in like a sort of a athletically like let down spot where it was hard to motivate yourself just because of the circumstances of the competition?
Absolutely. I've been in that place a couple of times. One of the biggest ones that I remember is my junior season in college. The previous year, I was ranked #1 in the country going into the national tournament, and I get beat in the semifinals by a guy I hadn't wrestled yet. I think he was like #4. He ends up winning the national title, and I ended up placing 3rd. So the following year, I kind of had a little chip on my shoulder. I was running through motherfuckers all year, just beating dudes up. And I remember it was a guy that I beat. He was a 2-time defending champion from the weight class below, bumped up. And I remember beating his ass all year. I wrestled him 3 times, beat him up all year, and then we got in the national finals. And I just beat him 2 weeks before the national finals at the conference finals. And we get in the national finals, and he beats me. He somehow upsets me. And what made it worse was this was the first time my dad was at the tournament. My mom was at the tournament. My brother went to school where the tournament was being held, University of Houston. And I was the only Texan in the national tournament. So I had a camera crew following me around all week. They did a big story on me. And then to get in the national finals, I get beat. It burned me so bad to where and it sounded silly at the time. Even I felt silly doing it, but I didn't step on a wrestling mat, all summer. I said I wouldn't step on a wrestling mat. I would do other things outside besides stepping on a wrestling mat, because it just psychologically it kind of did something for me. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I need a little time away from it. So I didn't step on the mat. I did everything else I could. I started lifting. I got big. I got strong. And that chip on my shoulder turned into a big boulder on my shoulder. The next year, I was running through everyone in the country. Division 1, 2, 3, didn't matter. I was beating your ass when you got on the mat. And when we got in the national final, it was the same situation. I couldn't choke. I overcame that hurdle, and I became the national champion. So, I've been through it over and over. I've learned how to deal with adversity, get back on the horse, and eventually persevere.
You mentioned Sugar Rashad Evans earlier. Has he chimed in and given you any pearls of wisdom on this fight? And has he broke down this fight? And what has he said to you about this?
Not exactly. Not. It's one of those things where if you have a brother and your brother knows you're competing there's not much that needs to be said. You just feel their energy. You know what they're about, and that's kind of how I feel with Rashad. Rashad doesn't. And I mean, he's in a different situation right now. He's in a different spot. You know, he's going through a different time transition, and so I let him be. I give him the space. It's not that I hound him every day, all the time. Like, hey, you know, do this, do that. Let's hang out. Let's do this. But I do call him when we do talk, which is a couple of times a week. When we do talk, each and every time I take it personal. I'm like, why didn't you call me yesterday? Why didn't you check up on me? I give him a hard time each and every time, but I know he loves me and I know he cares and he knows what I'm capable of. So it's not one of those things where he has to hold my hand and walk me through every scenario of what's going on.
How would you describe what your style is in the cage?
I think I'm a hybrid of the new age mixed martial arts, because there was a time where it was just the special skill. You just had jiu-jitsu, you just had wrestling, you just had stand-up. And then it came the guys that could blend both. The Sugar Rashad eras, these guys, they can take you down and they can also kick your head off. And then you come to these guys now that are doing spinning, jumping, all this weird stuff, and then you throw them on their back and they still choke you out. And so I like to think I'm a hybrid to where, I mean, if you had to pick, what would you say I was weak at? I could out-wrestle guys. I could out-grapple guys. I can not put your lights out, that's for damn sure. And you know, I have gas tank for days. It's not, oh, this guy's gonna get tired. It doesn't matter. I'm one of those hybrids to where I can do it all.
Do you have a dream scenario for your title fight? Is it in Dallas? Is it in Madison Square Garden? Here in Vegas? What's the dream scenario?
No, my dream scenario was, 228? It was just sliding in there, winning the title in Dallas, Texas, in my hometown. That was a dream scenario. But at this moment, it's, you know, I don't really care. It doesn't really matter to me. It's a matter of me going out and getting through Friday, and seeing what the future holds. But when that time comes, I'm gonna basically just, you know, enjoy that, because it's something that I put my mind to. I said this was what I was going to do. I got there and I accomplished it.
Are you disappointed that it hasn't come yet? That your time hasn't come yet?
I wouldn't say I was you know what? Yeah, just to be honest. I'm just gonna be real with you. Yeah, I'm a little disappointed, but there's different things, there's different obstacles that kind of slow up the way. I mean, there was a time where I got sick and I had to pull out of one fight. And there was times where I've gotten opponents and they had to pull out of fights. So you can never tell what's going on. At the end of the day, I'm just following the path that I feel that has been designed for me. So, you know, we'll see. But when it comes, you better believe I'm taking that motherfucker.
I guess the follow-up to that is, I guess, how do you avoid kind of that disappointment getting in the way of going forward and achieving your goals ahead?
I avoid those by doing what I do. I'm being honest with you guys. It has been a little disheartening at times where, you know, I've been told, okay, you'll get a top 15 guy, and then you don't get that. Okay, all right, you're in the top 15, you're gonna get a top 10 guy. Then I have to fight a guy that's not even ranked. Oh well, you be next up for this guy and that guy. Yeah, it's a little disheartening, because for me, it's not about money, it's not about fame, it's not about all of that. I chose to compete in this. There's other shit I could have been doing. I went to college. I could have got a job. You know, I like wearing suits and having a nice car. You know, could have did that. But I just have a strong will, burning desire to continue to compete. And I made the decision once I got into the sport, I'm going to be the best at it. And that's what I'm chasing. So when you have things like that kind of slow up that process, it's a little disheartening. It's a little disappointing. But you know, of course, me being a father, me having a child now, and just some of my friends, my teammates, my coaches, my managers are kind of the ones that kind of give you that extra nudge now. Like, we're not fucking done here. You know, we still got a title to win. So, you know, those are the guys that kind of keep me going.
Cool. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, guys.